So here today we'll discuss on the basics of the MOSFET capacitances, how to estimate them. So far, what we have seen is the the current voltage characteristics related to the steady state or DC characteristics of devices. Now, if you have to argue, if you have to reason about the what you call AC or transient characteristics of the devices, we need to have a in-depth estimate of the device related capacitances. Now, in general, the capacitances are a function of the layout geometries and also process technologies, but and also these are very complex. If you have to take the uh, accurate measurement, then you have to go for they have to be visualized as a distributed parameters, okay, involving complex 3D calculations. But we shall take a sort of simplified picture so that we can approximate them as the lumped parameters, okay, knowing for sure that in actuality they are distributed. But at some point of time, we have to make the calculation simpler. Okay. Also, regarding the manufacturing processes, we'll mostly take them to be as manufactured by step or abrupt grading. But in general, it may involve linear grading or other kinds of grading. Okay. So as you see, it will be clear. For the timing, if you take a top view of the MOSFET transistors, here is the total the mask, the original mask will the length that is measured for the gate material is Ln. Okay, but as we see that as diffusion process is carried out, some of the some of the impurities will tend to, I mean, it is unavoidable. It will have some overlap between the source and gate. So on the top we have got the metal, polysilicon gate overlying the underlying oxide and silicon substrate. So here, at some point of time, there will be lateral flow of the impurities. So this amount of overlap LD, which we show it here between the gate and source on this side and gate and the drain on this side, will be unavoidable. This is also allowed. Some tolerance has to be kept. So the electrical length, the actual length of the channel will be reduced to Lm minus 2 LD. But LD, however, is nearly what you call maximum 1/10 of the total mass length. So if, for example, this is a 2.5 micrometer, it should be 0.1 micrometer and on the other side. So together it will be 0.2 micrometer. So this allowance and tolerance we have to make for. Now, and apart from that, if you look at the drain side, so Y, capital Y assumes to it is the length, approximated length of the division, n plus division on this side. Similarly here also, okay. And W is the width. Width, this width of the that means width of the division, okay. And but the actual width of the gate plate may be more. So when we discuss about the, that means the channel dimensions, when we talk about, we'll consider L for the length and W for the width. And apart from that, we all are aware of the fact that if you look at the cross-sectional view of the transistor formation in a p-type substrate, we find that the source and drain on both sides, they are surrounded by a what you call strongly doped p-type implant. This is the name given is channel stop implant. That means this will act as a stoppage of the channel. That means no inverter channel is supposed to be formed here. For that the nature of the implant is p-type. Okay, so that's how we proceed. Now, next what we yeah. So here the parasitic capacitances that are associated with this typical MOSFET structure, it is looked upon as a four-terminal device: source, drain, gate, and body or substrate. Okay, so here we show that the gate to drain capacitance, gate to source capacitance, these are mostly dependent on the based on the oxide. There is no PN junction. Okay, it is mostly a parallel bed capacitance. But on the other hand, if you look at the drain to body capacitance and source to body capacitance, here we have to take note of the fact that this refers to the PN plus junction here, PN plus junction here. So here the capacitance will be related mostly to due to the reverse biased PN junction, and we shall have a view of the detailed estimate of such capacitances and what role it plays in the transient phenomena. That means if the MOSFET, if the transistor is subjected to a varying electrical voltage, what will be the response time? That will be determined by the value of the capacitance. So we'll have some mechanism to measure the values of the capacitances, right? So based on the physical origin, these device capacitance, which is parasitic, the term parasitic also we need to underscore. That means parasitic capacitance means these capacitances are not designed by us, the circuit designer. Okay, these come naturally as the outgrowth of the device that is built up. Okay, so as the devices are built up involving different conducting layers, okay, the metal or polysilicon and diffusion and also the oxide. So due to the presence, these capacitances come naturally. That means that's why the term parasitic capacitance is made in order to describe the capacitances associated with the MOSFET transistors. And based on their physical origin, these devices capacitances, here we are showing them as a lumped uh, capacitance. So they will be classified into two major groups. One is oxide related capacitance, the second one is junction related capacitance. Now we pay attention to the oxide related capacitance first. So as we saw, the gate to drain overlap capacitance will be taken out separately. Okay, so their dimensions, as you can find, is LD here and W. Okay, so this is a, so that means CGD overlap and CGS overlap are the overlap capacitances due to the overlap between gate electrode and the source and also the drain. We are for simplicity we assume them to be equal in measure. Assuming both source and drain regions have same width, the overlap capacitances are COX multiplied by W into LD, where C subscript OX stands for the gate capacitance per unit area. Okay, and this is measured as the ratio of the dielectric constant of the oxide, which is typically 4, and the thickness of the oxide. Both of the overlap capacitances are voltage independent. That means as although the gate voltage with respect to the channel uh, can be changed, okay, but still these capacitances will remain unchanged. These are independent of voltage. Now consider the capacitances resulting from interaction between the gate voltage and channel charge. So as we know that if you initially, if the gate is at zero bias, so no channel will be formed, okay, and the body will, entire body will act, substrate will act as a lower plate, okay. So at that point of time, the capacitance will be measured in one manner. Whereas if the gradually the gate voltage is increased with respect to the source, so after the channel is formed, then the channel will be the typical lower plate. Although it is much less in dimension in width compared to the underlying bulk or the depth of the substrate, but still channel will act like the shield. So that means the effect of channel will be to act like the lower plate, okay, while shielding the underlying substrate from the effect of electric field. So we see as the channel region is connected to source, drain, and substrate, here also the different connections we have to take into account. One can identify three components, capacitances between gate and these regions. That means CGS, gate to source, gate to drain, and gate to body, respectively. In reality, the gate to channel capacitance is distributed and voltage dependent. So CGS stands for gate to channel capacitances between gate and source terminals, likewise CGD. Now to prove the voltage dependence of these capacitances, Consider the three typical regions of operation, namely cutoff, linear, and saturation. In cutoff, no conducting channel, the surface is not inverted. So entire gate plate is made of the substrate. So hence, gate to source, there is no capacitance. CGS equal to 0, CT equal to 0, where CGB, that means the entire, we are now investigating the uh, voltage dependence of the gate and underlying lower plate. Okay, so this is divided into three parts: CGS, CGB, and CGD. Now, in the cutoff, the entire capacitance consists of the that between you take assuming the gate as the upper plate and entire substrate as the lower plate. So obviously, the total capacitance will be taken as COX into WL. Now, while a channel extends from source right up to the drain, okay. So for symmetry, we split the capacitance between gate to source and gate to drain. Now, channel entirely, that means see, we talk about, we shall not talk about CGB, but CGS and CGD. Okay, so here it is taken to be half of COX into WL. And in saturation, as we know that the channel takes up a what you call tapered dimension, while the pinch off point can leave the drain in and progresses towards the source. Okay, although to a slight extent, based on whether gate to drain to source voltage is increased above the overdrive voltage. Okay, so then as the drain is no longer connected to channel physically, so the entire gate to channel capacitance will be restricted between gate and source, and it can be shown where it is nearly 2 by 3 or 0.67 multiplied by the entire capacitance. But how this expression has come, this I'm not able to tell you. Okay, if you are interested, you can read from some device book, particularly Muller and Cummins book. You can see, or maybe you have already studied in your prior course. But I'm not able to address how this expression has come. Okay, so it is based on the physical phenomena and the channel. What do you call the modification of the channel shape as VDS increases above the VD sat. That means VGS minus VT. So these were all available. So the bias dependence of the oxide related capacitance overall, if we can view, so this will be the variation. Its lowest value happens when the device is at saturation. Okay. Remember that these three in the cutoff region, obviously the entire capacitance will be taken to be this, and also the this will and also taken into account the overlap capacitance, which will always be present. Okay. Later on also, this overlap capacitance will play some important role when we shall discuss about the how the capacitance leads to delayed response of the transistors. Okay, when they form a part of the different logic elements like say transmission gates and all that. So that time also we'll have occasion to take into account these overlap capacities. Okay, they cannot be ignored. At the same point of time, as the bias dependent capacitances are concerned, so during the linear region, it is split into CGD and CGS. Okay, these are equal. While at saturation, okay, this comes down from COXWL to 2/3 COXWL. So the minimum value of the total bias dependent capacitance happens when the device is in saturation. Okay, and the maximum value when it is in linear region. Okay, so that means it is total CXWL plus 2 CXWLD. So this is the variation of the distributed gate to channel capacitance as functions of VGS. Now, as VGS increases from 0 onwards till it is below the threshold voltage, uh, the the mode of operation is cut off, and after that, as VGS exceeds VT, okay, so for a fixed value of VDS, let us say, So VGS is much small. VGS minus VT is less than VDS. So the device enters saturation, and this is the uh, CGS 2/3 COXWL. Okay, so this is the voltage dependent part only. At the same point of time, you have to consider COXWLD, the overlap capacitance. And after that, when it falls to linear region, when when VGS exceeds VT plus VDS, okay, so that means the channel tends to touch the the channel is continuous from source to drain. At that point of time, two parts, half of CXWL for CGS and half for CGD. Now, the more important more important capacitance which will play an important role during the transient phenomena, okay, happens to be due to the junction capacitance. This we need to pay additional attention. So junction capacitance means, here for simplicity we are showing the drain side view. Okay, so and also an approximate three-dimensional view we are taking. So this is the top plate, gate oxide, and this rectangular parallel pipette uh, happens to represent the channel. Note that here, although we are showing it as a rectangular box, but the actual channel is very narrow at the oxide semiconductor interface. So of this box, rectangular box, only a thin, what do you call, a plate, on only a thin rectangle with very small width will account for the channel, but the rest of the box will be filled up by the substrate, the underlying substrate. And on this side, it is N plus division. Now, as we tend to discuss about the junction related capacities, we have to take care of the different uh, metallurgical junction, PN junction or PN plus junction. Here, as we note, if you remember the geometry, that on three sides, this N plus region also, here we are showing them as a perfect rectangular parallel pipette. So on three sides, okay, namely this side, that means which we have labeled as the junctions 2, 3, and 4. On three sides of this isolated N plus junction that happens to model the drain, so this corresponds to a P plus N plus junction. Here also P plus N plus junction and P plus. The P plus comes from the channel stop implant, which is surrounding the N plus region. Okay, on three sides. And two other junctions are there, junction 1, junction 5. Here the P-type material is lightly doped. Okay, the 5 shows the bottom junction. Okay, bottom junction contains the P-type comes from the lightly doped P-type substrate. And on your left, we have got the one. It is also noted as N plus P. That means here the N plus junction, and on your left we have got that entire substrate. Channel forms only a part of this. So comparing the dimensions, this in the junction numbered as 1 corresponds to Pn plus junction. So this we are showing in the adjacent figure. And note the dimensions also. Why dimensions are important? Because gate capacitance per unit area comes from the underlying technology, but the dimensions are dimensions are determined, or what you call planned by the circuit designer. So here we show Y, capital Y, as the length of the diffusion, W as the width, and Xj, that is the junction depth. Okay, now here we are taking view of the conventional device. Okay, so that means Y typically will be at least 10 times higher than the, or W. We'll find that Y, these dimensions are much above Xj. Xj may be as small as say only 1 micrometer, whereas this may be say 5 micrometer, this may be 8 micrometer, and so on. That we shall see as the actual numerical problems we take up. So 5 different junctions we need to take into account while trying to calculate the CDB. That means here drain to body capacitance, and on this side symmetrically the source to body capacitance. These are junction related capacitance, and typically the substrate has got a doping density which is order of magnitude lower than that of the P plus channel stop implant. Okay. So typically you can say that this is 10 times lower. That's why we refer to them as P N plus junction, whereas the 2, 3, 4 we are referred to as P plus N plus junction. So different characteristics will be related to them. Now, as we calculate the depletion capacitance of a reverse biased abrupt PN junction, the thickness of the depletion region is given by this. This introduces makes use of the dielectric constant of the silicon, which is taken to be approximately 11.7, and Na and Nd the acceptor and donor concentration. Now, what is phi 0? Phi 0 is the diffusion or contact potential. This we can easily calculate through this term. So KT by Q is the thermal voltage, which is nearly 26 millivolt in the room temperature. That means at 300 degree Kelvin. And acceptor and donor concentration, Ni is the intrinsic concentration, which I believe all of you remember, that nearly 1.45 into 10 to the power 10 per cubic centimeter. And also the reverse bias voltage is negative. Normally, phi 0 will be lower than 1, as we shall find in the typical numerical calculation. And V can range from some value comparable to phi 0 to much higher value. So obviously, if we write phi 0 minus V, then the overall term becomes positive, as V is normally much higher compared to the phi 0 value. And the so built-in or junction potential, by various names we denote this phi 0. Okay, so sometimes we talk about them as contact potential or diffusion potential or built-in potential hill. Okay, that we all know from our basic device understanding. They act like a potential hill to the flow of the carriers from one side to the other. And depletion region charge stored in this area is given by this. Okay, so where this A is the cross-sectional area, these also we have just seen what are they, and the junction capacitance, the depletion capacitance associated with this PN junction is given by this. Here we write with a modulus symbol. Okay, so this is the term, right? Half and root over Q0 phi 0 minus V in the denominator, and these terms. Now, as we write this here, this accounts for the step graded junction. But here, let us digress a bit from the. We shall get back to this. We shall take up the actual calculation of the capacity. Before that, let us see in bit a typical what is the nature of the metallurgy of this PN junction, which accounts for different expressions for this. Okay, so let us just prove the general grading. That means you can have, we are showing on the p type, that means as if it is a high wall, that means highly doped p plus region, and this is the metallurgical junction. On my right, on our right, we have got the donor impurities, pentavalent impurities. Now different gradings we show. Okay, so if we have a here also a perfect wall type, that means the step or abrupt grading. So on the right of the junction, this is entirely N type, P type. On our left, it's sorry, on the right of the metallurgical junction, we have got entirely pentavalent impurities. On the left, we have got entirely trivalent impurities. But these are actually, you can say that this abrupt of step graded junction, mostly we take into account, or we take for simplicity. In general, for different applications, the junction can be graded one. Okay, so with linear grading, that means if we write the expression, the distance we are varying, this is the actual junction. On my right, this is the positive x-axis. Okay, so we write it as say g into x to the power n. If n is 1, we talk it as a we call this grading to be linearly graded junction. If n is 0, then we call it to be the step graded junction, the abrupt graded junction. And also we can have n having different values. Now, starting from the Poisson equation and various analyses, we can find that the junction capacity associated with this PN junction will be proportional to the 1 by Vr to the power m, where Vr is the Vr actually is phi 0 minus V, the reverse bias potential, where also m and n are related in this manner, m equal to 1 by n plus 2. And for linearly graded junction, then Cj proportional to Vr to the power minus 1 by 3 and so on. Now, we just, I'm sorry that I'm just taking your attention away from the main feature, just note the, as for the typical application is there. So just see how the sensitivity of this of the capacitance to voltage happens for different grading. Okay, so for a this we can make a comment. Voltage sensitivity of CJ is greater for a linearly graded junction than for a step graded abrupt junction. So where you need to vary the capacitance, this capacitance is made use of, particularly in radio tuner circuit. Okay, where the frequency of the oscillation, okay, is based on the capacitance, and this capacitance is determined by the reverse potential of the PN junction. Okay, so we know about various features like varactor diode. We have learned variable reactor. Okay, so how the reverse voltage influences the value of the capacitance. Now, this comment that we have made, voltage sensitivity of the junction capacitance is greater for a linearly graded junction compared to that for a step graded junction. Now, what do we mean by that? If we see, so with n equal to 0 for abrupt graded junction, we know that Cj is proportional to Br to the power minus 2. Okay, and with Cj with for step graded junction with n equal to 1, this will be Cj is proportional to Br to the power minus 3. Okay, so you can easily find out that, suppose let's say the value of the both linear graded junction as well as that means reverse bias voltage is 8. Okay, then the capacitance that happens for, let us say, linear graded junction will be 1 by 8 to the power. Suppose for the simplicity, yes, mentally you can calculate. So if the VR equal to say 8 volts, okay, then the capacitance will be taking for simplicity that the proportionality constant is 1. So junction capacitance for linear gating will be 1 by 8 to the power 1 by 3. Okay, or 1 by 2, that means a 0.5 microfarad. Just I'm telling for the sake of example. And on the other hand, for the abrupt graded junction, it will be 1 by 8 to the power half. That is 1 by 2 root 2. Okay, 1 by 2 root 2 or root 2 by 4. And root 2 by 4 equal to 1.4 by 4, that means roughly 0.35 microfarad. So as you can see, for the same amount of reverse voltage, namely 8 volt. Okay, so for linear gating, we are having a capacitance of 0.5 microfarad, whereas for abrupt junction, we are getting 0.35 microfarad. So as 0.5 is greater than 0.35, so we say that the voltage sensitivity for linearly graded junction is more than for the step graded junction. And also linear gating junction has got its use. Now, at the same point of time, in the earlier days, when you are having, if you remember, I don't know, nowadays you may have played with our older radios where we have seen a circular knob. No, that means the circular knob. Basically, what we do, we tend to vary the capacitance and tries to tune to different radio stations. Okay, so for that, the resonant frequency varies linearly with the voltage. Okay, normally the way we design it. In that case, okay, if this has to be the case, that means the resonant frequency, which is given by 1 by root over LC, or omega r is proportional to c to the power minus 1 by 2 or 1 by root over c. Then we know the relation between Cj and Vr. So then if we can make it like this, if Cj is proportional to Br to the power minus 2, then only we can make it Wr equal to Wr is proportional to Vr. Then the resonant frequency varies linearly with the voltage applied to the varactor. The varactor, it can be a PN junction varactor diode. In order that this should happen, it is required that M should be 2, right? Because Cj should be proportional to the Vr to the power minus 2. So 2 and M equal to 2. For M equal to 2, it is required that N should be equal to minus 3 by 2. That means on the responsibility of the fabrication engineer, that the grading should be the profile of the pentavalent impurity, the n-type component of this PN junction should be like this: hyper abrupt. It is referred to as hyper abrupt, the term, with n equal to say minus 1.5, minus 3 by 2. So hyper abrupt junction may be used for generating a varactor diode, so that ultimately, as a radio engineer, you can have uh, the resonant frequency to be directly proportional to the reverse voltage. This may lead to some advantage in the design of the overall radio circuit, but we are not going into details. Okay. So we tend to we have digressed a bit from our general discussion is to see that various profile of the N type region, okay, will account for different values of the CJ. That means the voltage dependent junction capacities, which is associated with the PN junction in general. So more generally, to account for the junction grading, okay, the voltage dependent capacitance may be written in this form. Capital A stands for the cross sectional area. CJ0, CJ0 is the zero bias junction capacitance divided by 1 V by phi 0 to the power m, where m is called the grading coefficient. For example, m equal to 1 by 2, 0.5 for abrupt junction, and m equal to 1 by 3 for linearly graded junction. And what is the zero bias capacitance per unit area? Note, this CJ0 is zero bias capacitance per unit area. So this per unit area, please do not forget, it will be denoted as say microfarad per micrometer square or nanofarad per micrometer square, like that. And CJ0, this is the expression where phi 0 is the built-in potential. Okay, so equation 4 and equation 5 will coincide for m equal to 1 by 2 or abrupt junction. But as we can see, this is quite complicated. That means CJ varies with the voltage. In transient phenomena, okay, you can apply a ramp type of waveform to a MOSFET, or abrupt, that means step voltage. Whatever be the case, there will be a variation of the voltage, and with this consequently variation in the capacitance. So calculation of the capacitance may be somewhat complex. Okay. Now we need to simplify somehow. Right. So how do we do that? For that, that means the value of the junction capacitance depend on the external bias. External bias means here the reverse bias potential. Okay. Depletion region capacitance is more compared to the forward diffusion capacitance, which is accounted for in the forward bias. But as the PN plus junction mostly remains reverse bias, PN plus junction means P is a substrate, N plus can be the source or N plus can be the drain. So mostly they remain reverse bias. So we have to take into account the depletion region capacity. This CJ depends on the external bias. And when we are subjecting the MOSFET device to varying potential, we see that it varies in a complicated manner with respect to V. Now we need to simplify that. For that, what we do, we take a problem of the estimating capacitance values under changing bias condition will be simplified if we calculate a large signal average linear junction capacitance, okay, which is by definition independent of the bias potential. That means although we know that the potential is varying, but we need to know only the initial value and the terminal value. Okay, so this will make for first order calculation, this will give us a sort of accurate value. Okay, so what is this equivalent large signal capacitance? That is given by delta Q by delta V. Okay, so with the variation of the junction charge, the depletion region charge, it is varying. So this will be the case. Now this CJV, we have seen how it is related to the grading coefficient M. So assuming that the reverse bias voltage across the PN junction changes from V1 to V2, so CQ is always computed for a transition between two known voltage levels. So basically we write it in this fashion. So taking into the generalized view of the equivalent large signal capacities. Okay. So I've seen it, I've shown it in this manner and also explained why it should be like that. So integrand is 1 minus x minus a to the power minus m, and if you do it, you get it like this. Okay. Now for abrupt PN junction, m equal to 1 by 2. Then we have got this expression for the large signal equivalent capacitance. Okay. Note that here V1 is the initial reverse voltage, V2 is the final terminal reverse voltage. A is the cross section, CJ0 is the zero bias capacitance per unit area, phi 0 is the built-in potential. And so what we do in order to in order to have a quick mechanism for calculating these large signal equivalent capacitance, we introduce a dimensionless coefficient, namely K subscript EQ equal to minus 2 into root over phi 0 upon V2 minus V1. In general, V2 and V1 are much larger compared to phi 0. So it can be shown that this dimension, which you call to be voltage equivalence factor, this K subscript EQ is actually the term that we use for this KEQ is voltage equivalence factor, and it is positive, although it has this numeric this expression involving negative sign. This is positive, and also the numerical value is almost always found to be less than 1. Why is it so? We have given some short explanation. Okay. But in general, phi 0 is a 0.7 volt or 0.6 volt. V1 is a V1 can be 0, V2 can be minus 5, something like that. So in general, we can simplify this expression, and it turns out that the approximate value of KEQ will be 2 root over phi 0 upon root over V2 plus root over V1 in a simpler approximation. And phi 0 is less than 1, whereas V2 may be much greater than 1. So in general, the denominator will be more than 2. Okay. If the denominator is more than 2, then and this is 2 multiplied by some value less than 1. So it will be less than 2 and it will be more than 2. So overall K is found to be less than 1. Okay. Right. So then the large signal capacitance associated with a PN junction or PN plus junction can be written in this form. That means product of the cross-sectional area, C J0 is the junction capacitance per unit area, and this is the voltage equivalence factor. Now, this may be required by us to calculate the numerical value of capacitance. Let us see. We are taking into account a simple abrupt PN junction. Okay, and we know the values of the doping density. Nd on my right side is 10 to the power 19. This is 10 to the power 16. We can call it PN plus junction. Junction area is 20 micrometer 20 or 40 micrometer square, and we know that 1 micrometer square equal to 10 to the power minus 8 centimeter square. Okay, so all this we know, and built-in junction potential is 0.88 volt. Then the zero-wise junction capacitance per unit area will be in this form. And putting in the values that is within our knowledge, epsilon SI is 11.7 multiplied by free space permittivity, then electronic charge, and this value, you get the zero-wise junction capacitance per unit area to be 3.1 into 10 to the power minus 8 farad per centimeter square. Next, as we will take a simplified view, that means the junction capacitance associated with this PN junction, note that this is reverse biased. Okay, so assume that the reverse bias varies from 0 to -5. Okay, then the depletion region capacitance we need to calculate. It will be the product of A CJ0 and the KEQ, that means the voltage equivalence factor. Under this present problem, the value of KEQ can be found out minus 2 into root over phi 0. Phi 0 is calculated to 0.88 volt. V1 0, V2 equal to minus 5 volt. Then we get it to be 0.56. And finally, the average junction capacitance is found to be this. Okay, that means A is 400 into 10 to the power minus 8. So this conversion of units you must be adept. You must do carefully. That means here from micrometer you can go to centimeter square. 1 micrometer equal to 10 to the power minus 4 centimeter. Okay, so hence this conversion is required so that we can because C J0, okay, it is having the dimension this farad per centimeter square. So convert this micrometer to centimeter, and hence we are getting this value for the average junction capacitance, that is 69 femtofarad, and 1 femtofarad equal to 10 to the power minus 15 farad. Now, if we place this, the calculations, as we have said just earlier, that while trying to calculate CDB or CSB, we need to consider 5 different junctions, metallurgical junctions. Okay, so 3 of them involve PN plus and 2 of them involve PN plus. sorry, three of them involve P plus N plus, considering the channel stop implant, whereas the others, one considering the N plus region and the underlying P-type substrate, and also the N-type diffusion region and the channel, but uh, in for all practical purpose, the channel means the P-type substrate region, right? So sidewalls of a typical MOSFET device, source or drain diffusion region, are surrounded by a P plus channel stop implant with a higher doping density than the substrate doping density. So the sidewall zero bias capacitance CJOSW, we have to calculate SW for sidewall. J0 means the zero bias capacitance per unit area, as well as the sidewall voltage equivalence factor. Okay, we will be different from those of the bottom junction. Assuming that the sidewall doping density is Na. Okay, Na is W, the zero bias capacitance per unit area, we can calculate. And also note that this sidewall is like a perimeter, okay, surrounding the uh, N plus region, and this perimeter wall has a common height. That height equal to xj. That means the junction depth. Okay, so if you just pay attention to these dimension, that means the perimeter wall has got 2, 3, 4. This P plus N plus junction has got the common height, that is x plus xj, right? So the wall length, the perimeter length will be y plus w plus y. So 2y plus w multiplied by xj. This will give me the perimeter area, total area. Okay, and here need to consider y multiplied by w, and here also w multiplied by xj. So these are the junction dimensions that we need to remember while calculating the different capacitance values. So all the three sidewalls in a typical diffusion structure have approximately same height or depth, let us say xj. One can define a zero bias sidewall junction capacitance per unit length. So CJOSW, you multiply with xj, then you get, this is the junction depletion capacitance per unit length, say from femtofarad per micrometer, something like that. Okay. So then how will you, so then the sidewall voltage equivalence factor also you need to calculate separately, because it involves the P plus channel stop implant doping density, which is higher than the lightly doped silicon substrate, P-type substrate. So then the voltage equivalence factor for those three junctions, of which the reverse potential varies from V1 to V2, this will be the expression. Now, if we combine the earlier equations with this, the equivalent large signal junction capacitance for a sidewall of length parameter P is calculated as this. That means the equivalent capacitance. This is the actually the large signal equivalent capacitance for a reverse biased PN junction. It will be the perimeter length multiplied by gate capacitance. Sorry, this is the uh, CGA zero bias junction capacitance per unit length, and the voltage equivalence factor. So this actually involves the A also. Okay. So A has been split into two parts: the perimeter length, and the xj that has been included within this. So that means the earlier we have written A multiplied by K multiplied by CJOSW. The CJOSW has been pre-multiplied by the junction depth, and then with the perimeter length it has been multiplied. Now, for one example, let us take up consider N-channel enhancement type MOSFET shown below. Substrate doping is taken to be a 2 into 10 to the power 5 per centimeter cube. Source drain doping is much higher, as you can see, 10 to the power 19. Sidewall doping also is 4 into 10 to the power 16, much, one order of magnitude higher than the lightly doped P-type substrate. Gate oxide capacitance is 45 nanometer. Junction depth is 1 micrometer. So, and also the substrate voltage is taken to be 0 volt. As if the if the reverse bias voltage varies from 0.5 volt to 5 volt, we have to calculate the average drain substrate junction capacitance. So here, as before, we calculate the three sidewalls of the drain diffusion form N plus P plus junction, while the bottom and side wall facing channel forms N plus P junction. Then the built-in junction potential for both types of junction are this. Okay, we are calculating separately. For the two junctions, this is 0.837. For the three other junctions, it is somewhat higher, 0.915. Okay, and we calculate the zero bias capacitance uh, for the two lightly doped PN junctions. Okay, so this is 6.01 into 6.01 picofarad, Newton minus 8 farad per centimeter square. Sorry, for the side wall. For the side wall, the three junctions are there. There we find the junction capacitance per unit length, that is 6 picofarad per centimeter, and zero bias side wall junction capacitance per unit length. Okay. So then we calculate separately the voltage equivalence factor for the two types of junction. One is minus 2 into root over pi 0 by V2 minus V1. So 0.51 for the two PN junction, PN plus junction, as you remember. And for the three P plus N plus junctions, the value of voltage equivalence factor is a bit higher, that is 0.53. And so we need to consider the total capacitance corresponding to the three sidewall capacitance and the bottom capacitance. The bottom PN plus junction and the channel, the P junction on the channel side, that means PN plus junction. If you sum them up, you will get it to be 11.9 femtofarad. Okay. So this is how we can calculate the total drain to body capacitance, or equivalently the source to body capacitance also, right? So do you have any doubt, dear friends? I'm sorry, I have not any questions on this. So this is how the MOSFET capacitances are estimated, particularly for transient parameters. So yeah, so yes, yeah, Janshano, yeah.
Yes, so in the thing we are multiplying perimeter, right? But that would be just three sides, right? One would be just the channel side would be with N plus P, right?
Yeah, the channel is likely to P-type substrate. Yeah. Sorry, Janshano, once again your question.
Sir, for the junction side, we're multiplying it with perimeter, right?
Oh,
So that is taking into account the four corner sides, right?
as a perimeter means junction 2, junction 3, and junction 4, which involves on the outer side, you have got the P plus channel stop implant on this side, on this side, on this side. Okay. So here for simplified geometry, junctions 2, 3, 4 involves N plus and P plus junction. Okay. Having the same value of built-in potential. That means the P plus junction, let us say it's having a value of say 4 into 10 to the power 16 per centimeter cube. This is having 10 to the power 19. So same phi 0, and also we assume that the junction depth is uniform. That means say 1 micrometer here, here, and here. Right. So perimeter will be y plus w plus y, 2y plus w. Okay. So perimeter length multiplied by junction depth will give me the total perimeter area for the three components of the CDB. The two other components will come from two other PN junctions, which involve the junction between the N plus and P. One is the bottom junction, which we show here by junction number 5. Okay, so it relates to the lightly doped P-type substrate and the N plus junction. On our left, we have got the junction numbered as 1. Now, as we see, we are writing the channel, but we are taking the same value for the P-type substrate. The reason is that the channel is very narrow. Okay, so suppose this is a 1 micrometer depth, height of this box, which we are showing as 1, but the extent of channel is much smaller. Say it will be 0.1 micrometer at the maximum. The channel width is very small compared to that of the bulk or the depth of the substrate. Hence, the junction 1 will be having the same potential, built-in potential and voltage equivalence factor as that of the junction 5. Okay. Yes, sorry. Was it your question?
Yes, sir.
Junction?
So we included P to factor for 2, 3, and 4. but
Yeah.
we just calculated 5, right? So where is the expression for 1 in that final
Okay.
expression?
Okay. Yes. 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 Let me. Sorry. Let me. It is there. Yeah. So let me show. Yeah. So here you get the dimension of 5 will be here for from this. It will be. Let me see. It is 10 micrometer. Yeah, 10 micrometer multiplied by, I think, 5. Yeah. Yeah, 10 by 5. So this is actually 10 multiplied by 5, that is 50 micrometer square. And the junction depth is 1 micrometer. So corresponding to 1, the area will be 1 multiplied by 5, or 5 micrometer square. So 50 micrometer square plus 5, that will come out to 55. Here you see. That means, I think you can see it. Total area of n plus p junction is the n plus p junction, sum of bottom area and the sidewall area facing the channel. That is 10 into 5 plus 5 into 1. So this 5 into 1 corresponds to the junction numbered as 1 in the original figure. And 10 into 5 correspond to junction 5. Okay, so junction 5 and junction 1 correspond to n plus p junction, whereas junctions 2, 3, and 4 uh, correspond to our sidewall capacities. Okay, so 55 micrometer square include the junction 1 capacity, junction 1 capacities and junction 5 capacities, and the three remaining, while we calculate them, they have the common boundary height, boundary wall height, that means xj equal to 1 micrometer. There, if you see, they are calculated like this. That means the perimeter length. Perimeter length is how much? Perimeter length here it is 25. Why it is 25? 10 plus 5 plus 10. Okay, right. So CGSW equal to the junction capacitance per unit length for the junctions numbered as 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we have to sum up the 5 components and get the total CDV, or drain to body junction capacitance, is nearly 12 femtofarad. Okay.
Yes, yes, I got it, sir.
Yes. So yeah. Then yes. Any more doubt? Please let us know. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I have not taken the attendance. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Download attendance list. But, yeah. Thank you for dear friends. Any more doubt? Please let me know. So yeah. Yes, Mohesh. Yeah. You're audible. Yes, Mohesh. Any doubt? Let me. Abhishek Chobe. Oh yes. Acha, so yeah. Oh, you opened another channel. So so for all that, let me. I mean, the if you, yeah, I hope that you are able to join the MS Teams class. So in all probability, I'll open the link, because parallel links, if you open, then some people will join the other meeting and all that. So let me uh, open the link always. Okay, on all class days. Yeah. Any more doubt, dear friends?
Hello, sir.
Oh yes, yes. Yeah. Who is this?
Sir Bipin.
Oh yes, Vipin. Yeah, Vipin. Please.
Yes,
Good
sir.
one.
So, sir, sir, may you please explain again why the perimeter is 10 plus 5 plus 10?
Surely, surely. Yes. 10 plus 5. Yeah. So
Thank you.
first of all, you need to consider the simplified geometry. Okay, we are showing on the drain side. On the drain side, you have got a n plus diffusion region. Okay, it is surrounded on 3 sides by P plus channel stop implant. Okay, what is P plus channel stop implant? Also, you must have noticed that in general, when you build up a n-type transistor, to ensure the isolation from the surrounding n plus transistors, we need to have a P plus channel stop implant. Okay, so that no inversion, no, this, what is the presence of this channel stop implant will tend to prevent the occurrence of any other inversion region. And on after this P plus channel stop implant, you have got another N plus N type MOSFET, something like that. So this acts as a boundary or isolation between the two neighboring N plus transistors. Sorry, NMOS transistors. It acts like a neutral region, and this is connected to the most negative potential, so that this is all. This prevents the occurrence of any channel, what do you call, further channel. And as far as the simplified geometry goes, we have got the included diffusion region N plus. It is surrounded on 3 sides by the channel stop implant, right? And so for them, this we have to consider P plus N plus junction. P plus, why we call it P plus? Because the concentration of this P plus channel stop implant is much higher compared to the lightly doped P-type substrate. Okay, P plus channel stop implant that. So we have to calculate the 3 P plus N plus junctions, which are numbered here as 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, and 4. And they have their own built-in potential and their own voltage equivalence factor. Okay, and also we need to consider the 2 other P N plus junction. Why we call it simply P? Because P is lightly doped P-type substrate. And on your left, you have got the junction number 1. Although we are writing the name channel, it goes without saying that the inverted channel region, it's very narrow compared to the bulk of the substrate. So for all practical purpose, this on our left side, we have got this P N plus junction. Its built-in potential and voltage equivalence factor will be same as that of 5. So we are considering 1 and 5 together because they have got the same built-in potential and the voltage equivalence factor. On the other hand, we are considering 2, 3, and 4 together because they have got their same built-in potential and voltage equivalence factor. Again, these 2, 3, and 4, as you can see, they have got a common boundary wall and boundary height, that is xj, the junction depth. So 2, 3, and 4, we are the perimeter we are taking to be 2y plus w, y plus w plus y. And here the dimension, if you remember, the w multiplied by y. Here it is w multiplied by xj. Okay, this all remember. So in this problem, what we are considering, if you see, first we need to calculate the built-in potential corresponding to the 2 different types of p-n junction. One is Pn plus, this is Pn plus, and the other is P plus N plus. So obviously P plus N plus has got slightly higher built-in potential. Then we calculate CJO as W, that means the zero bias capacitance per unit area for the side wall. Okay, that is 6.01 into 10 to the power minus 8 farad per centimeter square. Then we pre-multiply it with the junction depth, that means the height of the wall, that is 1 micrometer. And 1 micrometer equal to 10 to the power minus 4 centimeter. So then we have got the zero bias sidewall capacitance per unit length, that is nearly 6 picofarad per centimeter. And then we calculate the voltage equivalence factor, one for the junction 5 and junction 1, that is 0.51, and the other for junction 2, 3, and 4, that is slightly higher, that is 0.53. Okay. So then the total area of the N plus P junction is sum of bottom area and side wall area. That is 10 into 5 plus 5 into 1. So 55 micrometer square. And this has been expressed. Note the dimension farad per centimeter square. This is micrometer square. So this factor 10 to the power minus 8 will be appearing here, right? So when you are calculating the total CDB, it has to consider the capacitance due to junction 5, junction 1. Okay, that is equal to this 55 into 10 to the power minus 8 into 1.41 into 10 to the power minus 8 multiplied by the voltage equivalence factor, and the 2, 3, and 4, the 3 P plus N plus sidewall junction capacitance. For them, it is what? 6.01 picofarad per centimeter. Then you calculate the 2y plus w. Okay, y equal to 10, w equal to 5. So 10 plus 5 plus 10 or 25. Okay, 25 micrometer, but you convert it to centimeter, 25 into 10 to the minus 4 centimeter. Okay, then 0.53 is the voltage equivalence factor. This is the sidewall zero bias junction capacitance per unit length. So now you multiply them, you get the total one. And so overall, we have taken into account the 5 individual components and got the value of 11.9 or 12 femtofarad. Okay, clear, Vipin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I think I have to attend one class, na? Some of you have already left. Okay, thank you, dear friend. Then we'll meet again on Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Okay. Till then, please remain safe, healthy, stay safe. Thank you, dear friends. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Stay fine.